Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Today we are going to talk about one of the stories of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, titled The Good Neighbor and the Bad Neighbor. When neighbors are kind and loving each other, assistance becomes natural to them. They help each other as if they were a family. And when they lose these feelings of love and kindness, when they begin to harm one another, and when the strong neighbor may take advantage of the weak one, then problems and arguments prevail. That was what happened between two neighbors at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Of the two people who were neighbors, only one of them was a good person. All the neighborhood knew him to be a kind person who always helped those in need by carrying their belongings or visiting them when they are sick. On the other hand, the other neighbor was an envious person who could not stand the fact that his neighbor was better than him. Therefore, this bad neighbor placed a large amount of trash at the front door of the good neighbor's house, in a way that it blocked the entrance. The good neighbor was bothered by this. The good neighbor decided to complain to the Prophet, peace be upon him. The Prophet advised him to be patient. So the good neighbor returned to his house and patiently cleaned away the trash which was put at his front entrance. Later, the bad neighbor wanted to cause more trouble. He changed the flow of the water so that the filthy water that flowed out of his house would flow right into the good neighbor's house. The filthy water ran into the good neighbor's house and ruined the furniture. When the good neighbor saw the scene in his house, he returned back to the Prophet, peace be upon him, to complain for a second time. Again, the Prophet advised the good neighbor to be patient. The Prophet spoke to him kindly, making him feel better. The good neighbor returned to his house saying, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil, which means, I seek help from Allah Azza wa Jal. He is my Lord. The good neighbor was saying that over and over. As for the bad neighbor, he was busy thinking of a new way to harm the good neighbor because he wanted to satisfy his evil cravings and envious self. Therefore, the bad neighbor got the carcass of a dead donkey and placed it behind the good neighbor's house. The bad smell of the dead animal spread everywhere. Many insects and flies came to feed on the carcass. At that point, the good neighbor wondered what he could do. He quickly walked to the Prophet, peace be upon him, to tell him of the problem. He wanted to ask the Prophet how he should solve the problem. The good neighbor promised himself that he would do whatever the Prophet ordered. When the Prophet heard the good neighbor's third complaint, he ordered him to put his furniture in the middle of the street. That way the people would know of his problem. The good neighbor returned to his house and immediately did what the Prophet told him. His other neighbors began asking him why his furniture was on the street. Was he moving? Was something harming him? The good neighbor answered their questions by telling them his story. He also told them what the Prophet had ordered him to do. When the neighbors found out how much harm the bad neighbor had inflicted upon the good neighbor, they started making dua against the bad neighbor. The news quickly reached the bad neighbor. He realized the situation had gotten out of hand. It was not long until he came running to the good neighbor, asking him for forgiveness. He said, "Return to your house. I swear by Allah the Almighty, I will not harm you." This is how the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught the people about the importance of treating the neighbor well. The Prophet also taught the people the proper way to solve a problem, and Allah Ta'ala knows best.